Blades of Fire is MercurySteam's upcoming action-adventure game. The game offers several unique elements but fails to execute them in a manner that isn't tedious or overwhelming. It does a lot well but struggles with its identity, making for a very jarring but still playable experience. Blades of Fire takes place in a world where giant beings known as the Forgers existed for quite some time until a war occurred, their civilization fell to ruin, and most Forgers became extinct. However, before they became extinct, they created humans and gave them the ability of the Forgers and the gift of the steel. Thousands of years later, the newly crowned Queen Nyria has amassed power and cast a spell that turns her enemies steel to stone. We are put in the shoes of Aran de Lira, the last known hero gifted with the ability of the Forgers, who can of course craft steel weapons now. But despite growing up with the Queen, it's now up to him to end her villainous reign. Blades of Fire storytelling is perhaps one of its weakest parts, if not the weakest. Players aren't told much outside of the opening cutscene, which only reveals you are Aran, who is suddenly gifted the gift of the Forgers. He then gets ambushed and has to save an old man protecting a kid who ultimately dies. Now you must take care of the boy named Adso as he accompanies you on your grand quest to kill the Queen. And that's about all you're given to work with, at least for most of the game. If you're anything like me, you'll probably be confused from the start as you'll be faced with many questions like who is the Queen, why is she turning steel to stone, because we don't see her for a significant portion of the game. We also don't know why Aran is chosen as a Forger or who exactly Aran is outside the little character background players can read in the glossary. In fact, barely anything about the characters and lore is properly explained outside of reading about them, at least for most of the game, as it insists on telling players about the characters and lore instead of showing them. Of course, more is revealed as you progress through the game, but in a rather lackluster way, and even then, you probably won't care as much. As a result, the overall narrative feels uninteresting, especially as it does not give us enough reason to care. The overall lore isn't that interesting and not much happens in the story that keeps you engaged throughout. Blades of Fire offers a very mixed gameplay experience. As you play as a forger, the game heavily focuses on weapon crafting, repairing and upgrades. You find forged scrolls by fighting enemies, which allows you to craft over 30 types of weapons, from swords and axes to spears and great axes. Each weapon feels great to use and offers different uses. The game has several attack types, namely blunt, pierce, and slash attacks. Some enemies can only be defeated with certain weapon types, which forces you to be on your toes and forge as many weapons as possible. Combat boils down to targeting an enemy's head, torso, and sides, and using quick or heavy attacks. The system is simple and easy to understand, with the only challenge being when to use which weapon and on whom. However, the game has an identity crisis as it tries to be a Soulslike while maintaining action-adventure elements. While the weapon system is simple to understand and intuitive, it can also be incredibly tedious. Blades of Fire is a challenging game, at least when you're playing on normal or hard mode. This means you'll be dying a lot, and with death you'll lose the weapon you had equipped. So unless you recover it, you're essentially screwed. Luckily, you can recover them no matter how many times you die, but it doesn't make it any less annoying when you have to go fetch your best weapon and while all enemies respawn around you. Additionally, if you run out of materials to craft weapons, you're also screwed, because then you can't craft any more weapons after that, so you're stuck either having to look for more materials or go find one of your many lost weapons. The game tries to be a Souls-like, but it doesn't commit because you don't lose your weapons in FromSoft games. And you can actually level up, but in Blades of Fire you can't level up Aran or his attributes. Only the weapons get stronger as you progress the game, and other stats like health and stamina can be upgraded by finding shards in chests like the God of War games. What's more, no matter how powerful your weapons are or how many repairs you can add to them, they will eventually break, rendering them useless. This forces players to keep finding weapons and not rely on the same weapon all the time, but it can get inconvenient when the only weapon you have available breaks on you, which will happen a lot, especially when fighting tough bosses and enemies. Speaking of repairing weapons, the game has this nifty little crafting system that lets you live out your dreams of bonking weapons as a blacksmith. If you're good at it, you can craft powerful weapons with good alloys and materials, and if you're great at it, you can get more repair stars, which means you can repair the weapon more times. This system is intricate enough to be immersive, but not so intricate that it's overwhelming. However, it does take a while to get all the stars, and it's not easy, which can be a tad annoying at times. Outside of all the tedious parts, Blades of Fire can be actually a pretty fun game. Enemies are fun to fight and have different move styles and mannerisms. You have enemies that can jump on their swords, teleport, spit at you, and so much more. But the bosses are where the fun really lies. Not only are they incredibly challenging, but they're also well designed and have interesting movesets, which makes them fun to fight. They're notably few and far between, and most of the earlier bosses are more of this bald fucker over here, but as you progress, fighting more bosses becomes really fun. Other than that, Blades of Fire has a great art direction and impeccable visuals. Character models are detailed, environments are lush and vibrant, and interiors are shockingly well designed. When you aren't caving skulls or lacerating enemies, you progress the game by doing a bunch of zany things that I won't spoil, but they succeed at making the game fun outside the tedium. Overall, while Blades of Fire is certainly fun and offers a lot to the average player, it doesn't offer enough narratively to be a memorable experience or enough gameplay elements to be replayable. Regardless, I can still recommend it to fans of the genre who don't expect too much from their hacky slashy games, so it gets a 6 out of 10. Will you be playing Blades of Fire? What are your expectations? Comment down below and subscribe for more quick reviews and videos on the latest games.